Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound Browns 3D here on the OBR, brought to you by State Sharpening, Mower, Sales, and Service. Sorry we missed everybody yesterday. Sometimes, life comes up. All is good on that end. Hope everybody had an incredible weekend. I want to say I hope you all enjoyed the Super Bowl, but I don't know if anybody who's a true football fan obviously enjoyed our last game of the year being such a highly uncontested contest. Certainly Philadelphia was just an absolute, and if you guys listened on Friday, Pete and I would try to give our predictions. I was tap dancing around thinking that Philly could win the game. Obviously, I was right but wrong at the same time. Philly just went in there and just owned the building, owned the day, owned the moment. We're going to talk a little bit here about the Eagles and certainly, some things maybe the Cleveland Browns can take from them. One thing that's absolutely been bothering me a little bit, though, the last couple of days is the talk on the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, let's stop. All right. This team has pretty much been a dynasty for the last 5 seasons. 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins. Look, I appreciate greatness. That is one of the reasons I love sports. That's why I do what I do. And just watching sports teams be great is something I thoroughly just enjoy and just draws me in even more. And, so for anybody trying to knock down the Chiefs, let's just stop already. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Oh, well, the run was fake. Some of the things I'm hearing, I don't care who these people date in real life, any of that stuff, whatever. The Chiefs had an amazing run, and I don't even mean to say had. The Chiefs are having an amazing run. And we still probably got maybe even another decade of Patrick Mahomes if he wants to be out there, which means the Chiefs could be a contender each and every season. As far as the Philadelphia Eagles, now, I'm sure you all remember, Andrew Berry went and spent a season with the Philadelphia Eagles before he came back and, took basically the main chair for the Cleveland Browns as the general manager. And you see some of what Andrew does or believes as far as, assembling a roster, similar to what Howie Roseman does in Philadelphia. And I think, Andrew has tried, just maybe hasn't gotten all the way there yet. Tony Grossi, you couldn't even if there's drafts on the same. Well, if you don't have a first-round pick for 3 years, those players are quite impactful. So not being able to select anyone in the first round for 3 seasons is certainly going to hurt your roster. So, in everything right now, and this is probably my biggest aggravation with coverage you guys are getting right now, is everything is done basically from the narrative that fits what they're trying to tell you. Everybody who's trying to talk about, the Myles Garrett trade, I don't think I've seen one person say yet how it just physically destroys any possibility for the Cleveland Browns to compete for 2 years. They don't bring up the cap hit and how crippling and demoralizing it makes it for anybody to do any work for this team. It's just, you should trade Myles because of this. You should trade Myles because of that. Tell the whole damn story. We are in 2025. You have so much more of an educated fan base now than you did 10, 20, 30 years ago. Tell it like it is. Tell it true. Tell the entire story. That is what needs to be done. This piss poor coverage just aggravates the living daylights out of me. But one of the biggest things we've seen Howie Roseman do with Philadelphia over the last couple of years. And, for those of you who are new to my work here at the OBR or new to me through my work here now at the OBR, Pete Smith and I, at my former show, spoke together for years. Pete and I have been doing podcasts since 2017. We agree on a lot of things, see things a lot the same way. And that's probably why we have the relationship we do. And for the Eagles, it has always been about trying to be extremely strong within the trenches. Pete and I have harped on this for years. Draft big, fat, athletic kids. Said it a million times over. The Browns had that going on the offensive line and had a really, really nice run on the offensive line. They could never seem to kind of match it on the defensive line, except for maybe 2023. Brought in a lot of guys. Everybody was pretty much healthy. The season went well. And then they tried it again, drafting Michael Hall. And, this season certainly got away from them. There's a lot to be had on the defensive line coming up this offseason through free agency and certainly through the draft. Daniel Jeremiah just put out a tweet, I think it was last night, and said at this time last year, he had 12 defensive tackles who were basically going into his draft reports, his draft profiles, as being starter level players in the NFL. This year's draft class, he's at 24 to this point. 24 defensive tackles, starting caliber NFL prospects. Tells you that's some things that the Browns should be focusing on. 5 picks in the top 102. Expect one of those to be an offensive tackle. The offensive line, we know it needs work, obviously, but there's questions that we just don't have answers to yet. Is Joel Bitonio going to return? We don't know, obviously. Do they think DeJuan Jones could be a left tackle for them? Either way, it doesn't matter. Browns need to sign a veteran in free agency who has left tackle experience. They also need to draft an offensive lineman with left tackle experience. If DeJuan hits on the left side, the rest of it works out. If DeJuan does not hit on the left side, most likely you have your replacement for Jack Conklin whenever Jack's time with the Browns here is done. On the defensive line, keep bringing in bodies. And you saw 2 prime examples in Super Bowl Sunday's win for the Philadelphia Eagles. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat. Both of these guys will be headed to free agency. 4.5 sacks, fumble recovery combined for the 2 of them in that game. Big-time players. Get him in here. Get him on that defensive line. I'm not worried about the Myles Garrett thing. I'm not. I'm in no hurry to entertain it. He can talk to whatever media members he wants. He can hold a press conference. He can do a live radio show from the parking lot in Berea. I don't care. I'm not entertaining it right now. I'm not. Because the teams that would be interested are not going to give me an offer that is going to wet my whistle. I am not trading Myles Garrett for 2 first-round picks that most likely will be made in the 25 to 32 range in 2 separate drafts. That just doesn't do it for me. I'm going to fleece you with a really good player, too. Maybe then I'll talk, but I have no intention of moving on from Myles Garrett whatsoever. I will pay him. I will extend him. I will pay him the money that he deserves as being the best defensive player in the NFL. No problem whatsoever. You want to put pen to paper on that? Let's go. But I am not crippling my franchise in any way whatsoever for the next 2 years, especially if I'm Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and my ass is on the line, literally. I am not signing off on my career here in Cleveland because Myles Garrett feels that there's other teams with a better opportunity to play in a Super Bowl than the Cleveland Browns. Don't care. Then you know what? You could have been out of here this year. You could have done your 5, could have taken 2 franchise tags, and Myles Garrett could have been a free agent this year. The Browns still control your rights for 2 more contract years and 2 more franchise tag years after that. And the caveat I am willing to give you is I'll tear it up and I'll give you a big, fat new contract and I will make you the highest paid player on the defensive side of the ball in the NFL. But I am not telling everyone else in that locker room, go scratch. I'm not. So that's where I'm at on that. The Eagles certainly give you, a view as far as, finding a path to a championship without maybe the elite level quarterback play. And I do not mean that in any way whatsoever to be disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. We'll talk about that in a second. I've been talking to you guys for the past week or so. Great group, State Sharpening Mower and Sales Service in Broadview Heights. If you're local to the Cleveland area, they are your one-stop shop for all things lawn equipment. Is there anything worse than missing a Browns game because you've got lawn chores to do? No, you don't want to be doing that stuff. You want to have that stuff taken care of. Well, you need to have your mower taken care of, or you need to get a mower. That's why State has the best lineup of new Cub Cadet mowers to cut your mowing time down, as well as genuine parts and expert factory-trained technicians to get your existing mower back into peak shape. Whether you're in the market for the state-of-the-art Ultima Zero Turn or the top dog Enduro Series tractor, let State Sharpening and Cub Cadet help you keep your weekend yours. Veteran-owned, the Kane family are lifetime Clevelanders, lifetime Browns fans, and they're proud supporters of us here at the OBR. Again, if you are local to Cleveland, State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service in Broadview Heights is your hometown team for all your lawn equipment needs. All their info is at statesharp.com. That is STATESHARP.com. Continuing here, certainly a lot of thoughts here. And, sometimes when you're away from the mic for a couple of days, it feels a lot longer than it is. Now, I know a lot of people, take what Jalen Hurts did this year with the Philadelphia Eagles and probably don't give it the credit it deserves. Because Jalen is extremely unique. He is absolutely 100% a top quarterback in this league. But with Jalen, it's like he's really good at both, if you're trying to understand what I'm saying here. His passing over his time in the NFL has greatly improved. He has put so much work in to, becoming a top-level passer in the NFL, and a ton of credit to him. His rushing production is extremely strong. And I think it doesn't give you like the scare the death out of you if you're a defense playing against him, say maybe like Lamar Jackson does. It doesn't give you that, oh no, one mistake and he can go 70. Jalen Hurts, the rushing production, the rushing type you get from Jalen Hurts is kind of something pretty similar than you would kind of get from a running back. You're going to get 13, 14, 15 probably carries because you factor in those butt fumbles. And you get a large amount of rushing production from Jalen Hurts. And he's fast. He's not, scared to death fast. He's physical. He will give it just as good as he takes it. And I think that's more impressive. And certainly when you look at like his yards per carry and things of that nature, because you got to keep in mind the amount of tush pushes they run. Those are, at best 2 yard carries. So keep in mind how much that actually affects the way the rushing numbers look for a guy like Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm sure it's been pretty popular, and I've seen it from a few people that, hey, well, maybe that's the reason the Browns have the interest they do with Jalen Milroe. You're going to hear every quarterback's name. Free agent, draft target. There isn't a quarterback right now with a pulse who you shouldn't hear that the Cleveland Browns are doing deep due diligence on. And if we do hear of a quarterback that the Cleveland Browns are not connected to, could be a problem from the Cleveland standpoint, certainly. But it could also be that they are just that bad. Because there ain't anybody right now who's breathing, who's still active in the NFL or going to be going through this draft process, that the Cleveland Browns should not be all over. Their scouts are probably everywhere right now. Yep, you're going to Jalen Milroe's middle school. Yep, you're going here. You're going there. Go talk to every quarterback coach Sam Darnold has ever had. Let's get some time with some people close to Daniel Jones and see if we can find out what the issues were in New York. I mean, these are all things the Browns have to be dutiful on during this process. I'm not making my quarterback decision saying, hey, is this going to be a guy that's going to be okay with Myles Garrett? Not doing it. I am making and trying to find a guy, or guys certainly, that are going to fit how I feel this roster works. I don't need the loud, boisterous quarterback. I just need a guy who's going to come in and do his job. Nathan Segura spoke today, and basically spoke, and I think there's a lot of truth to what Nathan said today. That very similar to relationships, right? That somebody gets hurt a few times, guys, gals, all been there, right? At some point in your time in your life. And he basically equated it to basically where the Browns fans are with the quarterback position. You've been so heartbroken so many times. You're basically swearing off dating, or something could be brewing with someone and you don't want to pursue it any further because you don't want it to blow up in your face. And so Nathan is obviously speaking, about the Browns holding the number 2 pick here, and certainly, in regards certainly to Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and being so gun shy to put your toe back in the water that you could miss. And I do believe there is a lot of truth, again, a lot of truth to that with Nathan. I do understand the opposite side of it is if you already think it's not going to work, why do it? Totally makes sense to me, of course. But, and this is where, and I know a lot of momentum has been picked up here a little bit as far as, Shedeur Sanders and connections, being connected, I should say, to the Cleveland Browns at number 2 overall. Deion Sanders has done an amazing job in college to this point as a coach. And the success has been good. But I don't think that's truly what everybody should be looking at in regards to what Deion Sanders has done. He has kept his players grounded. He has kept his players motivated. He has made his players better students. He has made them better, respectful young men. All things that are truly, truly important. And Shedeur can go to any city in the NFL. Deion has raised him that well, that there is not going to be a situation in the NFL that Shedeur Sanders is not going to be ready to fit into. He's grounded. He has played a large amount of football for a Pro Football Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, Pro Football. He played a large amount of football for a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Between high school and college, he has missed 1 game. 1. So I know there are plenty, and me included, that feel that, could use to add some bulk to his body because it's a whole different ballgame getting hit in the NFL. But to his credit, has missed 1 game between high school and college to this point. There's a lot of talk about the kind of young man Shedeur is. And, this is one of the things, and Deion did not just do this to Shedeur, and certainly did not do this to Hunter. He did it to everybody. And these guys are respectful. They are thankful. They thank people for their time. They did so many interviews this week and basically went over and said thank you, shook hands, said appreciate it, great chat, thank you. This is what, I don't think it's show. It's what Deion has been preaching. Deion mentioned that to this point he had spoken to the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants, had mentioned that Shedeur has spoken to Tennessee. He did not yet. But this is something now that, I think is really starting to creep in to the brain trust in Berea. Is that I think it's creeping in that they know they need the Band-Aid quarterback. The Daniel Joneses, the Kirk Cousins, whatever your flavor du jour is of those guys. But I also think they believe they need basically the stitches option. And if we don't draft a quarterback at 2, are we ever truly going to try and have the opportunity to get our guy? The Browns go with Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. If it doesn't work, and they either traded down or took Abdul Carter at 2, I'm okay with that, by the way. And go Jalen Milroe at the end of round 1 or with that top of the second round pick. And maybe he doesn't even play it down in 2024. The season doesn't go well. And Jimmy's had it and makes changes. I think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are basically trying to talk themselves into, we got to make a decision on one of these 2 guys. Because if we don't make a decision on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, we may never get to make a decision as far as drafting our guy. The Deshaun Watson trade was everybody, and everybody was wrong. They tried. Everybody tried. Everybody wanted it to work. Failed miserably. But I believe the belief in that building is starting to turn to, if we don't take Ward or Sanders, we may never get to draft our quarterback. Not we'll wait for the 26 class. Is it smart thinking? Is it scared thinking? It's probably a little bit of both. But I also think they feel they need to amp some life back into this franchise. And look, they were wrong on Baker. And Baker was a completely different guy in those times, certainly in 2021. And, Baker was dealing with the injury, was dealing with the fact that his father and brother were ripping him off beyond no means. And Baker was not himself. It cost him. It cost the Browns. Stefanski and Baker just were at a level where they weren't really communicating on any other level than basically player and coach. So they got desperate and went ahead and gave an absolutely atrocious contract offer to Deshaun Watson, who basically told them to beat it and scram already a bunch of times. And they got a guy to commit to them for one reason and one reason only: money. And a decision that big and a decision that crucial usually does not go well. And we all saw how it played out. But they are in a much different position here now. This isn't a forced decision. They are going to hopefully and should be able to make the decision they want. If it's Sam Darnold and it's a boatload of money on a 3-year deal, they can handle it. If they want to, go hey, can we resurrect Daniel Jones? Well, I don't even know if I say resurrect. Can we get back 2022 Daniel Jones? Does Kirk Cousins have one more run in the sun? I don't think so. Or is it one of those guys, and then we still take our guy? And it may not be that they're our guy, but they're going to maybe have to settle in on one of them being their guy. And I get it. And that's kind of the way why my thinking, and a little bit what I'm hearing, of course, is shifting to this. They know they have the cap space, can easily create $89 million in a heartbeat. They have 12 draft choices. I don't think they're going to take all 12. You start rolling those over, and then the next year, round higher, and that's always been the Barry way, and I'm more than okay with that. You always want to make sure, draft picks are kind of like, food in a blizzard. You want to make sure you got a bunch of cans in your pantry if you're going to be locked in the house for a couple of days. But I think it's going to come down to that they are going to have to decide which one of these guys is their guy. Certainly Tennessee at 1, if they do or they don't, or they trade out, certainly can murky these waters for them. But I think the overall thought process for the Cleveland Browns is we are going to take one of these guys, because if we don't, it is our last chance here. And we are not, it's not going to be something that's going to help them by passing. It's probably going to look viewed more as, hesitant, gun shy if they trade down or they were to use the pick on a player who certainly probably grades higher, is higher on everybody's draft board. But it seems like, maybe the hand is in a position now where it's going to be forced a little bit for the Browns. And Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski just feel that they have to take one of these two guys. Gives us plenty of things to certainly talk about over the next 2.5 months, of course. With the NFL season ending, not this weekend coming up, but right around that corner certainly is the NFL Combine. Browns will certainly be there, rolling deep, trying to get their hands and mind and ears all over everything that every one of these prospects does over at the Combine. But you look at what the Eagles did and, trying to have, the quarterback that can give you a double threat, trying to have a plus offensive line. The Saquon Barkley thing was just gravy on top, to be completely honest with you. That was just a player in peak physical prime behind an incredible offensive line. I think what they averaged like 6'6", 330 or something. Just an absolute unit of grown men. So the Browns certainly need to put in work on that offensive line. And, it was probably a time for a change before last season. Certainly time for some new blood and some changes now for this season coming up in 2025. And working on defensive line and getting it deeper. It's not about where 95 is going. What do I do with 95? I'm not entertaining it. I'm not. It would have to be the king's ransom of king's ransoms for me to even entertain that. And you hear from the most well-connected people in this business that Andrew Berry pretty much just ain't talking to anybody about it. He knows it's out there, and don't call me because I'm not going to talk to you about Myles Garrett. And I'm 100% on board with that. I'm not trading my greatest asset right now and then basically saying, everybody, I might as well just quit because, I'm going to get fired anyway. There'll be players in free agency that can help their defense. There'll be certainly plenty of players in the draft. Wide receiver room is going to need a little work. Other than, Jerry Jeudy, you don't have a proven commodity there. Whether it's bringing in somebody, which certainly I think will happen, a veteran. Elijah Moore could be brought back. I know for some people that's not going to move the needle as much as others. The draft it's going to be tough because it's basically, you probably got 4 wide receivers that are probably in the top 32 overall. And then maybe you have 4 wide receivers that are in the 32 to maybe even 100 range. It's just not a very deep class. Another playmaker at the tight end position. Gonna need his free safety. Cornerback, it's going to be interesting to follow. Because even if you wanted to move on from Greg Newsome on the 5th-year option, I doubt he has much appeal to anybody right now for that money he's going to make. You have both Newsome and Martin Emerson in contract years. You have one steady mainstay, but unfortunately, your star cornerback does miss some time because he's a little bit undersized, and that's fine. I guess, I have no problem with Denzel Ward. And I do appreciate the fact that Denzel Ward basically speaks about, he has no issues being here. His whole life has been here. This is where he wants to remain. So we got a lot to get to, and that's it. It is full throttle free agency. Starts that March 10th. So we're less than a month away Well, actually, not even a month because it's February and it's short, right? So we're literally like, I'd say 11th, 17 days. We're about 27 days away from the legal tampering period to be open. And then, obviously, second to last week in April, it'll go nuts with the 2025 draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But we've talked a lot here today. We've hit on a lot of things. I think Andrew Berry can certainly learn a lot of things from his former boss in Philadelphia. And it should be huge to get this team back on track and right and ready for 2025. And if you don't think this team is able to compete in 2025, I severely disagree with you. Yes, they were 3-14 last year. I think a lot of that was by reason. And once it was over, there was no reason to even try to make it any better. Find a veteran quarterback. Draft the rookie quarterback that you think is going to truly fit your franchise the best. And as far as free agency and trades, do what you've done every offseason up until now. Because that part you've handled. It's the major move. It's basically getting, the move of all moves and getting the guy that can provide you at the quarterback position. And look, you're not going to find Josh Allen. You're not going to find Lamar Jackson. You're certainly not going to find Patrick Mahomes. But you got to find somebody. And, it's on the line now for everybody in that building in Berea. You're going to be able to get 2 quarterbacks. Probably going to even bring in 3. But it's time to get it right at the quarterback position. I am Jeff Lloyd, your host here at Browns 3D on the OBR. Appreciate everybody for coming on out every day. Great lineup tonight. You will get, of course, Brad and Pete. The reacts will be on following this. Garage Beers will be on as well. So you're getting 3 shows here tonight on the OBR streaming network. Make sure you're following on YouTube. Make sure you're also subscribed over at on Twitch as well. Certainly, again, huge thanks. And the show is brought to you by State Sharpening Mower Sales and Service. If you're in Broadview Heights near Cleveland, go ahead, check them out. Check out for, your Cub Cadets, your Toros, anything you need. Spring is coming faster than anybody thinks. Cannot wait for it. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, and we will talk to you tomorrow.